Welcome back to the Blind Press YouTube channel, and it's time for our episode 3 review from Rings of Power, and this one is called Adar. And I have to admit there were a couple of cool fight sequences in this episode, and it paced a little bit better, but there were still a lot of what the hell is this moments, and proof that, again, this is just fan fiction.
Shut the fuck up. No one cares about your robot fan fiction. Know your fucking place, trash. Fucking.
So we start off with, we have our Harfoots, and it's the festival just before their migration. And I guess the Harfoots are nomadic. So they're nomadic, but they're very close-knit and secretive. So it's and just before their migration, they have a festival where and they do like a remembrance of people that got left behind in the last migrations. So, you know, we have this happening. This is in preparation. We also have Galadriel and Halbrand waking up in the ship below deck, and we pull into port of their rescuers, and we find out that they have been rescued by the Númenóreans, Aragorn's people, if you are an actual lore person. Aragorn's people. And they are not happy to have an elf be there. Apparently, despite being very close with the elves back in the war with Morgoth, they have since cut ties with the elves, and things are not good on relation terms. They are rescuers. They're the captain of the ship that rescued them, we find out, is named Elendil. And his son, of course, Isildur. So, I was wrong. This is not after the battle where Elendil dies and Isildur cuts the ring from Sauron's hand. The battle with Morgoth, I guess, predates that. Now, so we have Elendil and Isildur, and the Númenóreans appear to be a seafaring people. They live on an island, of course, Númenor, which is not on the continent of Middle-earth, and they ply the waters around Númenor. We also have the story of the stranger, who has to, in what's going on with this episode, has to be one of the 5 wizards. It shouldn't canonically be Gandalf, because Gandalf wasn't around for the first battle. He only knows about it because he was learned in the lore. Yes, Gandalf is an Ishtari. He is an Ishtari, being Tolkien's version of basically Avatar, right? He is an ancient being. He is not this ancient, however, and only knows of these happenings because of his studying of the ancient lore. So, the stranger should not be Gandalf. I'm hoping to Christ that it's like Radagast or Saruman, because that would make more sense, and that would give me hope that these people actually know their lore. But, as Sitch and Adam said in their stream with Short Fat Otaku on Wednesday, a lot more people would watch the show if it was Gandalf.
It's because, secondly, in the subtitles of the episode, he's called the Stranger. And the Stranger is Sauron's name. That's his title.
I thought Sauron's name was like the gift giver or something.
No, there's a period in the lore where Sauron returns to Earth and he basically kind of charms his way into power. And during this period, he's called the Stranger. So it's
I
his
thought he was called the
name.
Lord. I'm pretty sure. I thought he was called the Lord of Gifts at that time.
If I had to bet, I would bet on the Gandalf storyline
And
over the
also,
Sauron.
moreover,
Mhm.
it's several thousand years too early for Gandalf to show up in the original timeline.
Well, they're not keeping with the timeline, I assume.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
Right. So.
But if they were, this would be too early for Gandalf to show up.
Well, okay. Here's what I think it's. I thought when I first saw it, I thought it was either Gandalf or one of the Blue Wizards, and I was like, no, it's gonna be Gandalf because, like, if you're creating a show and you want people to watch it, obviously they're gonna go with Gandalf because that's gonna get people to watch the show.
Yeah, he's the most
Gandalf's in the
recognizable
fucking
character.
show. Yeah, and so to me, I mean, first of all, he looks literally exactly like Gandalf. He looks as much like Gandalf as someone who's not Ian McKellen could look. A young Gandalf. He falls in a comet from the sky, and Gandalf would be coming from heavens. He's like the keeper of the flame and stuff. He's associated with fire. Where Sauron was already in Middle Earth, wasn't he? Because he was fucking around with Morgoth. He was his number one general. I mean, that's what Galadriel's looking for Sauron. So why would he be falling out of the sky in a meteor?
Something happened to him at some point where he also became non-corporeal.
I have a very sinking feeling that the Stranger is Gandalf. He ends up Nori in the Harfoot story. Nori tries to steal Sadik, one of the wiser older Harfoots, star charts because it looks kind of like what the Stranger drew with the fireflies to show Nori where he's from. He made the fireflies into a constellation, if you remember from last episode. But unfortunately, the embers from the campfire that the Stranger was using, he snuck into the Harfoot encampment to read the paper and accidentally burnt up the star chart. And then crashed literally into the Harfoot festival. And because the law of the Harfoots to keep them secret is no outsiders, and Nori broke that law, there was a case made that she and her family be what's called decaravanned, which means basically kicked out of the tribe, basically. Thankfully, Sadik, I guess he's their chief, says, she's young, she's a kid. Basically, he says she still has more hair on her toes to grow, just like more sense between the ears to grow, but her family will be at the back of the caravan. And if you remember from last episode, her father, while trying to raise the carnival canopy, actually broke his ankle. So he will not be able to get the help that he would normally get from being at the front of the caravan because of his ankle. And now they are really in risk of being part of the left behinds, as they're called. And the story, the Harfoot story sequence ends with the Stranger basically coming out from behind the cart as the migration is starting, and he's helping push the cart. He's basically now working to help the Nori and her family, and they will help him find where he's from. Now, Galadriel and Elendil have formed a sort of bond because she knows what Elendil means in Elven, which it means elf friend, and he speaks Elven. And he and Galadriel take a trip to the Hall of Lore. And I think this is the same Hall of Lore we see Gandalf in the Fellowship of the Ring movie. And I believe in the book, when he's in the Fellowship of the Ring book, when Gandalf tells Frodo, I need to go, learn more about this and the ring and everything. I think that's where he went. This is the same hall, I believe. And Elendil has basically been forced to watch over Galadriel because he was the one who brought her to the city. And elves bad. Because we have to have more blatant racism between elves and men and elves. Now, here's one of the really big what the fuck moments for this episode that really took me out of the Lord of the Rings feel. Because honestly, out of the 3 episodes, this one felt the most like the Lord of the Rings. But for the fact that the Númenóreans have a queen. Nowhere in any of the lore have the Númenóreans had a queen. Especially during this time. In fact, I'm pretty damn sure that, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but I'm fairly certain that the Númenóreans had a king at this time, and Elendil and Isildur had allegiance to a king. I'm fairly sure that was mentioned in the lore originally. So again, when I hear this based on the Lord of the Rings and appendices nonsense in the credits, I get rather annoyed. Because, like, I would be fine with there being a queen if you were introducing a new kingdom, or like maybe like an elven kingdom or something like that. Like, Galadriel was a queen later on of Lothlorien. But, like, everybody that's a fan of Lord of the Rings and the appendices knows that the Númenóreans didn't have a queen. So why the fuck do the Númenóreans have a queen? Like, we already have 2 Mary Sues. We don't need a third one. And by the way, the queen is like hell-bent on, like, I think she's hell-bent on killing Galadriel, by the way. Because the end of the show has her saying, the elf has arrived. The prediction has come true. The elf has arrived. And she's all upset. But it's just, like, really, why do you have to create... Like, Tolkien had plenty of strong female characters and plenty of templates for you to base a new strong female character off of. And to turn... And the other thing is, Galadriel, when she's talking to the Queen Regent, like, if I were the Queen Regent, I would be pissed off too, because when Galadriel shows up, she's like, oh yeah, the Valor gave you this island. Like, you're welcome. Like, she was such a petulant bitch. Like, I'm like, this is not how Galadriel is. Like, even a young Galadriel would not be that petty. It was bad. It was like watching a medieval bitch fight. Just with fancy language. 'Cause you could have turned that into a today fight, and it would have been 2 girls like, this is my house. What are you doing here? Why did my man bring you here? Who the fuck are you? Oh, well, my family is actually owned all of this property, and we gave your ancestors this island. Isn't it great? Like, it's changed a lot. But you're welcome, by the way, for this island. You should be really grateful. Bitch, fuck you. This is my island. We didn't get given shit. That's what that's how it went down, just in today language. It was sad. It was really sad. And it was really not Tolkien. But then we have really cool, very Tolkien scenes. Because the elves, Arondir, last we saw him, he was exploring the dugout tunnels. And he has been captured by the orcs. And they are turning the Southlands into their stronghold. Now, notice later on in Lord of the Rings lore, the Southlands are near to where Mordor is. Now, there is a great scene where the elves try to escape. It's Arondir and the all of the tower guard people, the elves who have been sent to watch over the towns of Hordren and the other town of Men. They've been captured by the orcs and forced to dig out these tunnels. There's a great escape attempt scene that is so Lord of the Rings. It's amazing. Like we have the elves hacking at their chains with the tools, using their chains to like incapacitate the orcs, working together to try to escape. The orcs retaliating by releasing a warg that they have chained up. Arondir using his chains to try to restrain the warg while he's still shackled. There's a big fight. Like one of the elves tries to leap up and escape, and one of the orcs throws a blade right into his back. And Arondir actually shows some emotion in this scene. Like he's desperately upset at his fallen comrades. There's another scene, let me finish. This fight scene was awesome. And the tower warden has, okay, phone call interrupted. Now to continue. So we have the watch warden, who was Arondir's boss. He gets two arrows, and dies. And Arondir gets hauled back into the trench. So unfortunately, it was all for naught. But Arondir then gets taken to Adar, who is apparently the orcs' big boss. And earlier in the episode, the elves, Arondir and the Watch Warden, are talking about maybe Adar is another name for Sauron. That is one of their concerns. There's a scene before this big escape attempt scene where the orcs offer the elves water, because it's a really sadistic scene and it's brilliant. They tell the elves, you need to cut this tree down to continue digging. Elves being elves, the watch warden's like, I'm not cutting down this tree. It's been here since... He has this great line. He says, this tree has been on this earth since before you crawled out of whatever hole you came from. It has earned its right to be on this land. And there's this really messed up psychological thing that the orcs do. They offer the watch warden and Arondir and company water. And just as the third man, or the third elf, takes a drink, the orc slits his throat. And like Arondir, he's like, fine, I'll cut the tree down.
I will cut it down.
And he goes up to the tree and says, I'm sorry to the tree before he cuts it down. And again, it's a very Lord of the Rings feeling scene. Which is why it's very frustrating when things like the Númenórean Queen are around. And of course, people are gonna say, oh, that's sexist. How dare you not like that? No, I wouldn't care if it made sense in the lore, but it doesn't. And then, of course, people are going to be, oh, well, maybe Tolkien was a sexist person. Fuck you. That's bullshit. No, he wasn't. Read the books. I'm sorry. Just because his characters weren't boss bitch doesn't mean they weren't strong female leads. I just deal with it. Just deal with it. There are many ways to be a strong woman than to be a petty catty cow. Galadriel. Well, guys, that wraps up my review for episode 3. Stay tuned next Friday for the review of episode 4. Let's see if it gets more Lord of the Ringsy.